I think the best story that I could share with you is that when we switched from our prior vendor, our monthly active users was sub 30%. So these are now staff that are working in the tool on a regular basis. Within, I believe it was 90 days of the initial kind of kickoff, we'd taken that user engagement to 79%. I'm Ross Rader. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Tucows. We're an internet company. We've been around forever, since 1993, actually. We've recently discovered the whole world of OKR and the difference that can make in our business execution. It's only been in this last year where we've partnered with Ally, where that has really now started to bear real fruit, and we're starting to worry less about the tools and the process and the mechanics of it, and now we're getting into the hard conversations of where do we allocate resources and what are the priorities. The conversation has changed a lot in the last 5 years, and it's now very much focused on the business rather than the process itself. We're talking less about OKR and more about business objectives, which is great. This year was the year where we decided everybody in the organization should be brought into the OKR process. And we did that with the intention of getting everybody focused on outcomes versus process, and kind of taking away the last little bit of opacity around what OKR is. We didn't want it to be a mystery for anybody. So all we've done with our OKR practice this year is really said to everybody in the organization, there's kind of 3 things you've got to do in order to kind of check all the OKR boxes. One is have goals, talk with your boss about those goals beforehand to make sure they're aligned with our corporate priorities or your departmental priorities, and then communicate your progress throughout the year. Now, as it happens, we've got a great tool that really helps us do all those things. Our relationship with Ally has been outstanding right from the get-go. Before we were a customer, through the sales process, onboarding, integration, migration, all of that, we'd had a relationship with another vendor in the past. When we decided it was time to find new tooling, looked at 15 different vendors. And what we found was that many OKR tools bring a certain mindset to their software, and the software pushes its users in certain directions. They're almost, it's like they're bringing a policy to how OKRs ought to execute. We found it very constraining because of the kind of the uniqueness in how we're organized. We have a very, typical top-down kind of planning methodology. There's, CEO and executive, and there's traditional hierarchy there. But because of these business units, we also have a number of what we call shared services across those business units. And so working kind of top-down hierarchically and in a matrix-style organization in the same company is just challenging. And so without the flexibility in our tools, it was constraining, to be honest. And when we found Ally, we were excited because we'd found a set of tools that kind of let us be flexible like that. It wasn't bringing a set of here's how you do it kind of policies to the tool set. Our annual planning process is long and messy and very pragmatic. So we kick off our OKR planning process in August. And what we start off with is really just a view from our CEO of what the next year or two should look like from his perspective. And it's very abstract at that point and very vague and not very concrete, but it's sufficient that we can take that into our budgeting process, which runs from September and into October. And that's then where the real tough conversations happen, because they're, you're looking for resources to back your ideas, and so a lot of our alignment conversations happen through that budgeting process, and that's still very much an executive level conversation. But then coming into that process in late October, November, we hit our annual board meeting. They kind of sign off on the budget and the high level strategy for the year. And that's when our real OKR planning process starts. So by that point, we've got pretty strong alignment at an executive level around what the priorities are for the coming year, where the investment should be directed. Then we can take that down to our departmental and our team level and have them work on what their annual objectives are and what their quarterly objectives should look like at least for Q1. And that kind of brings us to where we are now. It's January in our process, and we're working on what we call our sunrise process, which is set of company-wide communications. We record presentations for each of our business units to describe what those annual and those annual objectives and the Q1 objectives look like for each of those areas. Tool fatigue is real, and selling one more tool to a workforce, to a team is a tough road. And thankfully, Ally didn't make us do that. What we were able to do is go back to our staff and say one less tool. And we did that by really relying on integration. So the teams that spend most of their times in Jira get to continue to work in Jira. The teams that spend most of their time in Wrike get to continue to work in Wrike. The teams that spend most of their time in Zendesk get to update their progress against their OKRs through our Zendesk integrations. And it's the strength of those integrations and the flexibility of those integrations that really made that all possible. What's that saying? The culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? Kind of culture is primary, but without engagement, you never get to the point where you get to have those that focus on the culture. And OKR is a great way to do that. It's a very simple structure. It's very easy to describe. It's very easy to put into practice, and there's great tools like Ally to help with that. That work of talking about goals and execution and OKR on a regular basis, kind of leads to that engagement, because people are very interested in how they can be successful. How do I achieve success? How can my team be successful? How can my company be successful? And OKR is just a great way to do that. In terms of the impact that Ally's brought to the organization, the single largest impact that we've seen year over year is the quality of conversation we're now able to have around alignment on goals. We're finding these work streams or initiatives or ideas that are slightly out of alignment, and that we're able to very quickly identify those and bring them into alignment through additional conversation. Because it provides us with a common platform and common language around goals and execution and objectives and key results, we're just able to have those conversations more frequently, more easily, and with better results. In working with the organization, I felt like there was an interest in the problems that we were experiencing. There was a viewpoint that your company brought to the table, a sense of expertise and competency that really kind of resonated with us, and you really made it easy to be a customer.